We are joined by our first guest today. His name is Max Velocity, or his call sign, I should say, and he's the author of this book, Contact, a tactical manual for post-collapse survival. Now, Max Velocity was born in the UK, and he served in the British Army first before serving in the United States military, and he has a very unique perspective, therefore, on serving in the militaries of both nations. A unique perspective on a nation that has strict gun control versus America, which has gun rights and gun freedoms. So you can find his books on Amazon.com and everywhere else, and we'll give out his website soon. But Max Velocity joins us now. Welcome to the show, Max.
Hi, thanks very much for having me on.
It's my pleasure to have you on. You've just released a new book called Patriot Dawn that lays out a rather frightening scenario of what could happen in America. Can you give us just a brief synopsis of what that book is all about and what you're trying to explore narratively through that work of fiction?
Yes, sure. Really, that book is a result of my personal journey as I came through the whole prepping thing to writing my own books and my own manuals, trying to give people the tools to be able to defend themselves. Initially, when I was writing Contact, it was more of a collapse kind of situation, and as I've learned more, it kind of also gives you the tools for, perhaps a civil war, resistance against a tyrannical government. All the tools are in there. And then the reason I wrote Patriot Dawn was because it really came to my attention that fiction is a good way of getting things across to people.
Sure.
Some people might not want to buy a manual. They might have, too technical, that kind of thing, tactics. But so what I've tried to do with Patriot Dawn is to write about what I think is a very realistic scenario. Not that I expect it to happen exactly the same way that I'd go through in the prologue to Patriot Dawn. It's just setting a scenario to something that I think may well be coming soon. And by telling a story, try and sort of not only tell an interesting story, but also sort of educate people in a little bit of tactics, a little bit about what they might face, what things they might be against, and just to try and use that medium to get the point across.
Well, on the philosophical side, let me ask you this. You were born and raised in the UK. You became an American citizen many years later. What are your beliefs and philosophies on the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the right to self-defense, versus living in a disarmed society? I mean, it's not a canned question. I'm actually curious about what kind of contrast you see. What are your thoughts on all that? Yeah,
well, I mean, despite the accent, I am a U.S. citizen. I consider myself a patriot. I have sworn the oath on joining the U.S. military and when I became a citizen. I take it very seriously. I joke a little bit. I'm now here living in the United States. I have an American wife and children. And I joke that I should almost be suing for breach of contract, because I came to America. Before I came, I served many years with and for, U.S. military forces, that kind of thing, in places like the Middle East. And it wasn't that much of a change to me to actually come because I've been associated with Americans for a long time before that, so yes. It wasn't a great culture shock to me. And I've taken it very seriously, and I fully support the Second Amendment. I fully support the Constitution. Although, because of things like the UCMJ, I have to be careful what I would say, because, for instance, the Commander-in-Chief is the President, and so therefore I have to be careful what I say. But I will point out that when you swear your oath of allegiance, you swear your oath of allegiance to the Constitution. Exactly,
not to a person, but to the Constitution. So what if someone violates the Constitution? What is your allegiance to them?
Well, we see that all the time. You see that people seem to be violating the Constitution, and there doesn't seem to be any repercussions or consequences for that.
Right.
It just happens all the time. And you've got these instances like Benghazi. You've got I forget the name of it, the Mexican gun running thing.
Yeah, the Sinaloa cartel, all kinds of different cartels, drug Fast and Furious operation that covered that.
And, you see, thuggery across the United States with police officers doing things unconstitutionally, the TSA. You've got lots of things going on unconstitutional, and really, something needs to be done about that. And you originally asked me the question, how do I feel about it? Well, having come from the UK and now being a US citizen, I feel privileged to be in the United States, and given that I started on this path planning for, as like a prepper, planning for a collapse before I really got into the political side of it and started to wake up and see the dangers inherent in our own country. The importance to me of having firearms, whatever you want to call them, weapons. When I was in the military, you call it, you have your personal weapon. That's what it's called. So, I mean, people use the language. But you need those to be able to defend yourself against whatever may happen. I feel privileged that should a collapse happen, that if I'm living in the United States, I'll have the ability to defend my family. If I'm living in the UK, I have nothing.
Well, that's a good point. So we are on the verge, many people believe, of an economic collapse, a global cascading debt collapse of the trillions or more than a quadrillion dollars in derivatives, which are, of course, fake constructs of mathematically inclined greed mongers or something. The point is, the system, it looks ripe for collapse. What will happen in the UK if there is chaos and the citizens have no real way to protect themselves because they've all been disarmed?
Well, I dread to think about it. My family is still living back there, and I really don't know what they can do. I mean, I have family who's actually in the British military, and I would hope that they would get themselves onto a military installation which at least has firearms to be able to, and somewhere to actually, protect themselves. There is nothing most people can do. And this is one of the things, you see these, I have to mention the name Piers Morgan, but you see these interviews and, this British guy coming over and telling people they don't need a Second Amendment anymore. But my experience is that the UK is a very violent society.
Well, yeah, now that you bring it up, let me bring up Piers Mordor, and he joked about shooting rivals. This is an article out of Daily Caller. It says, in England, Piers Mordor joked about shooting, I'm obviously invoking Lord of the Rings there, Piers Morgan / the Dark Lord Sauron Mordor, joked about shooting rivals, said homeowners who kill, and said homeowners who kill burglars should not be prosecuted. So Piers Morgan was saying that first he joked about shooting professional enemies, and he wrote that he was a rabid fascist who wanted burglars tortured, and, quote, after a decent period of cattle prodding, testicle electrode treatment, and slow, gentle skewering over hot coals. These are the words of Piers Morgan, as published by Daily Caller. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the man's outrageous. He basically got kicked out of the UK, and now, people are trying to deport him from the United States, and the people in the UK don't want him back. I mean, it's not really, for him, it's not really about banning a certain type of firearm or gun. It's really about, his real agenda is banning them all, because he's one of these progressives, these collectivists, these statists, and he's a front man for all that. So really, his point. I forget who it was with, but I saw an interview on the internet. Someone was being interviewed by him, and it made some very good points, and he referenced it back to what the real meaning of the Second Amendment is, which is to defend against tyranny. It's not about being a hunter. All those things are things that come out of the fact that you might have firearms.
Target shooting.
That's not what it's really about. And all he could do, Piers Morgan, was just heap derision on this guy. So, it's all on your site. I mean, it all comes in from so many different angles. The kind of the demonization, the thought crime. It's really just about pushing this agenda and to disarm, the American population so that anything can be done to them.
Well, that's exactly it. You got to ask the question: what kind of a nation, or let's say this, what is a government planning if it must first disarm the citizens? So, in fact, there's a quote from the author of this book called "Resistance to Tyranny" by Joseph P. Martino, and there's a quote in here that I believe goes, "Any government that attempts to disarm its citizens is either a tyranny or planning to become one." So you got to ask, what are they planning that they got to have everybody disarmed?
Well, exactly, and I think you guys know a lot more about this than I do. I mean, I'm still on a personal journey of education with this, but you're exactly right, because why would America, an administration in America, want to take away the Second Amendment and effectively disable the Constitution, or revoke or get rid rid of the Constitution, which is the thing that makes America exceptional and has made America what it is.
Well, right.
If you take away that Constitution, then what is America anymore? I mean, they got rid of guns in Australia, but they weren't protected by Second Amendment right or a Constitution. So they just basically they had a similar situation to Sandy Hook, and they just said, right, no more guns.
Well, but think about all the details of this too. We have an illegitimate president who doesn't qualify, whose birth certificate is a total fake, an absolute document fraud. Multiple layers, copy and paste, font resolutions differ, and so on. It's an obvious fake. That I would debate that with anybody. It's irrefutable. And then we have an administration that runs itself like a tyranny, invoking executive orders, bypassing the separation of powers, bypassing Congress, which means bypassing representation. And the War of Independence in America was fought in part over the lack of representation of the American colonies in the decision-making process in the UK. So now we have the same kind of kingship, and Obama was crowned king yet again today in another pompous ceremony that really smacked of, the Fuhrer. This is the same issue that we once fought a war over to get away from and to establish liberty. That's how crazy it has gotten.
Well, my main worry here is that, as the United States has progressed through its history, from being the shining light with the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, now it's becoming, basically the federal government is becoming there for its own sake and for whatever other agendas there might be, and it becomes, it's just becoming another socialist state, and it's just starting to do all the things that socialist states do.
Yeah.
And back to your previous point, why would they want to disarm? Why would you possibly, if as an administration you were interested in what is best for Americans? Because we know that all these arguments about, gun control are just specious. So
sure.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you and me can just say that. We don't have to debate it between ourselves.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So, there is no real reason apart from agendas and, thought police type stuff to really want to, disarm Americans. And therefore, so you disarm all the lawful people, and then basically the criminals have the guns, and then the worrying, probably even more worrying than the criminals having the guns, are if there is therefore no defense against tyranny, should, and I say this because I have to, but should an administration become a regime, as I have it in my book, become tyrannical, nobody's got any defense. I mean, unless the criminals are going to fight it, but I don't really see that happening.
Right.
They're the only other people that got guns.
I think the brain damaged part of this in the minds of the radical left is that they cannot ever imagine a government becoming a regime, because in their minds, their hardcore belief is that government is the savior. Government is the answer. Government provides solutions. It never causes problems. It only provides solutions. And therefore, how could a government ever murder its own people or commit genocide? And I guess they have to, dismiss all of human history to hold that contradictory belief. But they manage to do that. They can hold that contradiction in their brain, their little brain damaged, minds. I don't know how. I couldn't even fake like being a radical left, anti-gun liberal. I don't know how they do it.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but I mean, it seems to me that you get to that point where you're trying to push this agenda, and so you're the progressive statist who's in power. You're the socialist, whatever it might be. Your ideal might be communism, or whatever the exact agenda is. But you therefore have enemies. You may construct those enemies because you need enemies to push your revolution through. But at the end of the day, it's easy in their mind to justify the removal and destruction of those enemies. Look what happened in Russia and Nazi Germany, Stalin, Russia.
Well, that's what it has become with Obama, is that his entire agenda is really just destroying his enemies. It's not about helping America. It's not about boosting the economy. Why should government even have the role of boosting the economy anyway? Government's not going to solve that problem. It should be government get out of the way, let innovation rise. But Obama is focused on destroying his enemies and not doing anything really for America.
Well, you didn't build that, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, you didn't build that. But hey, Obama's been re-inaugurated and is going to do more. He's going to do more. He gave us the phone, and he's going to do more. Stay with us, Max Velocity. We got to go to a break, but we'll be right back after this break with much more straight ahead here on The Alex Jones Show.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the Info War in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones.
Jones Show with Max Velocity, an author and patriot and an individual who served in the British Army as well as the United States military. And by the way, this shirt is continuing to sell like crazy at the InfoWars store, InfoWarsStore.com. It is the Come and Take It shirt showing the outline of an AK-47 that is formed by the words of the Second Amendment. And, for example, it has "shall not be infringed" coming out the barrel. What part of "shall not be infringed" do you not understand? I guess it's all about parsing words now, isn't it? Bill Clinton, is not is. And Obama, we're going to do more. We're going to do more to erode the Bill of Rights and destroy the Constitution. And we've given them 4 more years. And I guess enough of popular support to where they think they can try to get away with it, but they're going to find that real Americans aren't going to put up with that. So good luck. Good luck with that. Good luck with your little commie agenda. All right, now continuing with Max Velocity, the author of Contact, the author of Patriot Dawn, a very interesting individual who has served in militaries of 2 nations, the UK and the United States, and also served as a contractor working alongside U.S. military men in the Middle East. Max, you still with us there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, great. So I wanted to ask you your thoughts, since you've been, in the trenches, so to speak, with so many individuals in the military. If an order comes down from Washington to, let's say, martial law is declared, well, here's how it would happen. First, a false flag attack is set off somewhere in a major U.S. city. They blame it on gun owners. They then declare martial law, bring in the military, violating posse comitatus, and have the military start kicking in doors and confiscating guns to disarm the American citizens. Do you think, Max, that American military servicemen would engage in that behavior? How or what percent would follow orders, or what do you think might happen?
Well, Mike, I'm not really sure about percentages, but I did basically cover this topic in my book, Patriot Dawn, because I actually have, resistance elements fighting against what I call regime forces. And the way I've described it is, I think there would be a split, because some people are awake and some people aren't. and some people come from different backgrounds. So among the great variety of people in the United States military, some of them come from strong kind of patriot families, depending on what part of the country they come from. Other people don't. You've got to remember, a lot of people are recruited to the military through the inner cities, for instance.
Yes.
So there's two parts to this. It's really what the background is of the people in the military. The military reflects the society it comes from, and so many people in today's society are not aware of and really understand things like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We've got the whole push now, for safety and security, which is infringing upon people's rights. And so you've got many people in the military who are similar to a lot of the people, or even the entitlement classes, as we call them, who are out there in America today. The other side of it is if you've got an active duty unit, for instance, that's sitting on a base, if its chain of command doesn't flinch, and it just, the orders come down, and if there is, an intelligence briefing that says, this false flag attack has happened. We're going to say it's a false flag attack, but such and such has happened, and there are terrorists, and we have been ordered to deploy and do operations against these terrorists in the domestic United States. A lot of people aren't going to question that because
and that's how the manipulation would be done. They would call gun owners terrorists. Can you stay with us for one more segment, Max? We got to take a quick break.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we'll be back in just a little over 1 minute with the final segment with Max Velocity, author of Patriot Dawn, and I'd like to give out your website as well. One of the great things about what's happening right now is we really have to thank Obama, and we've got to thank Senator Feinstein from California. We got to thank all of these gun grabbers for overreaching, vastly overreaching. They have made a tactical error. They have awakened tens of millions of people to the reality that we are under siege by an illegitimate, unconstitutional, and perhaps even a criminal government. And this is going to work in our favor. And by us, I mean patriots. I mean people who actually believe in America, who believe in the founding fathers and the principles upon which we were founded. So they've overreached, and Bill Clinton warned about that just recently. This is an article out of Politico, January 19th. Bill Clinton says to Democrats, don't trivialize the gun culture. A lot of these people, he's talking about people who advocate firearms ownership, private firearms ownership. A lot of these people live in a world very different from the world lived in by the people proposing these things. He means gun control measures. I know because I come from this world. Yeah, Arkansas. There is a big gun culture in Arkansas. There is, in fact, gun culture isn't even the right word. It's a culture of liberty and self-reliance. That's really what it is. So Max Velocity continues with us in this segment. He's our guest, the author of Patriot Dawn. And Max, I'd like your comments on Bill Clinton's quote there about not trivializing the gun culture. But first, please give out your website address so people can find you.
Yeah, sure. It's maxvelocitytactical.com. It's maxvelocitytactical.
Okay, maxvelocitytactical.com, and I see that forwards to a Blogspot page. So very good.
There's a link to the blog on there as well.
All right. Not a lot of info on there yet, but I'm sure you'll continue to post. But there are some pictures of you in action. What is that? Is that a saw full auto rifle there?
I think, yeah. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but there's, a picture of me with a saw.
Yeah, that's some pretty heavy duty firepower you got there, dude.
That's right.
Is that what you have in your house now?
I wish, but no. So.
Yeah, those full auto kind of pricey to get those these days.
Yeah.
Not too many private citizens with a saw, right?
No.
Hammers, that's a totally different story, but not saws. Okay, only gun owners will get that joke. But go ahead, sir, with your comments.
On the Bill Clinton thing about awakening the gun owners.
Yes. What do you think? What do you think about that? Because
multiple thoughts. Because yes, I think maybe in their arrogance, people like Feinstein have overreached. But what worries me is, I mean, we were just talking before about how military could be kind of persuaded to be used domestically against so-called domestic terrorists who might just be preppers or gun owners or whatever it is. You know, you have those pronouncements that people having waterproof ammunition and more than 7 days of food could be like domestic terrorists and ridiculous things like that. What worries me is at what point people are going to kind of stand up, and by which mean I expressly mean not do anything violent. In fact, that's one of the dangers, is that there might be some kind of false flag thing which is put onto, you know, this could be how it begins. They've blown up somewhere or they've shot someone, and these are the right-wing extremist terrorists, and
right.
Now we've got to clamp down.
Yeah, well, that's we're fully expecting that to happen. In fact,
yes.
I'd put money on that happening. I'm sure they're working on it.
But yeah, and what I really mean is, you know, when are people really going to just stand up, you know, like civil protest? Because what worries me, you see enough already of these SWAT no-knock raids, supposedly against the wrong addresses, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they just start to take people down, isolated people in different houses or compounds or whoever they decide to see as the new threat, you know, you get the kind of Waco, was it Ruby Ridge? Sorry, I forget the name.
Yeah, Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge. You know, you get those kind of situations which are appalling.
Well, Max, we got to let you go. We got to go to break, but thanks for joining us today. The website is maxvelocitytactical.com. If you want to learn more, the book is Patriot Dawn, available everywhere now. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.